So welcome. Welcome. It is wonderful to see you all here today. So for those of you who are seniors, this is the last lap of a journey through Williams that I already imagine feels much shorter than you expected it would be. For those of you in the graduate art program, this is either the beginning or it's the beginning of the end. And for those of you in the Center for Development Economics, you are 1 month into an incredibly intense experience. But wherever you are in your journey, your time remaining here at Williams isn't very long. And as it happens, the same is true for me. I'll be leaving Williams at the end of December, after 8 years as president here. And so I think that we are all facing the same important question. What is it best to do with the time that we have left here, and with the opportunity that that time represents? And of course, that leads us immediately to the broader question of what to do with the opportunity presented by our entire and our entirely finite lives beyond Williams. So one of the most important things you've done in your time here is to challenge yourselves to talk about difficult and contentious issues. There's a narrative out there somewhere, very popular in the press, that college students are coddled snowflakes, unwilling to engage with questions that are new to them or that make them uncomfortable. Based on every experience that I've had here, this is completely false and incredibly unfair to you. I have been part of so many difficult and deeply honest conversations on this campus over the last 8 years. You are brave in those conversations. You are challenging, and you are caring. We are an academic institution, we examine ideas, and we have robust debate over controversial issues, both ancient and modern. Ancient controversial issues such as, what is the good life? What is the moral basis on which we construct society? What is the balance between the rights and dignity of the individual and our responsibility to each other? And these ancient and enduring questions imply contemporary political ones. How should we tax ourselves? How should we care for those of us who are sick or don't have enough to eat? How should we address humanely the challenges posed by immigration? I myself am the child of immigrants. In fact, I'm the child of refugees. How should our country engage internationally? How should we choose our allies? When should we intervene in conflicts abroad? How should we deal with adversaries armed with nuclear weapons? I've heard all of these difficult questions debated intensely and respectfully. But here is one proposition that is not up for debate. Is every member of our society and every member of the Williams community of equal worth? No. We are not going to treat that as an open, academic question or a question about which there are many sides. The answer, which should go without saying, but it is important to say it, is that every single member of our community has the same worth as every other member. And that is not a politically partisan statement. It's a core value, perhaps the central core value of Williams. And while we debate taxes and healthcare and foreign policy and so on, we hold fast to the commitments to each other that this value entails. The equal worth of every human being, of every single human being. That is a powerful idea, and it's one that can lead to change and has often led to change. And there's no better example of that than Bryan Stevenson, the author of Just Mercy, our Williams Reads book this year. The book is an amazing narrative, and I hope that you've all read it by now. I'm sure you've all read it by now, every word. Bryan, of course, is the founder of the Equal Justice Initiative in Montgomery, Alabama. And not only has EJI saved 125 people from the death penalty, saved them from death, Bryan, a MacArthur Genius Grant winner, argued a case before the Supreme Court that declared unconstitutional the sentencing to life without parole of minors under 17. And of course, Bryan appeared on this stage just 2 days ago. He was also, however, our commencement speaker 2 years ago. And on that June day, he gave a stirring address in which he exhorted us to keep 5 key lessons in mind as we work to make change. And paraphrasing from his words, these lessons are: 1, work on your identity. There's power in our identities, especially when they are identities of commitment and compassion. When you create the kind of identity that means something to the people around you, then you can change the world. 2, get proximate to the places and the people in your communities who are suffering. Get closer to the spaces and the places where there's violence and poverty. In proximity, you will find power, and you can do more than you think you can do. 3, change the narrative. There are narratives behind all of the problems we talk about. As Bryan said, the great evil of American slavery, for instance, wasn't simply involuntary servitude, but rather the narrative of racial differences we created to legitimize slavery, the ideology of white supremacy that has engendered decades of violence and terrorism. We've got to change that narrative and others. 4, stay hopeful. Hopelessness is the enemy of justice. Your hope is essential. Hope is what will get you to stand up when other people say sit down. Hope is what will get you to speak when other people say be quiet. Please stay hopeful. And 5, do something uncomfortable. You cannot change the world by doing only what's convenient and comfortable. To change the world, you're going to have to position yourself in difficult places and do uncomfortable things. Now, to those explicit lessons from Bryan, I'd add some other important lessons that I took from his story. Be steadfast and strategic. The road to justice is long and winding, and persistence is essential. Partial victories are victories. And what's more, no issue of any importance or complexity emerged 20 minutes ago, or 2 years ago, or even 10 years ago. Things are the way they are for some reason, and so you have to understand that history if you want to be able to change the future. Seek allies, even imperfect ones. Achieving change and justice is a team sport, and you'll need to work with people to get there. And some of them may not agree with you on everything you think. And yet, if you apply too high a standard of purity in choosing your allies, you will do your work alone. And have the humility to recognize that you are often not the perfect ally either, or not smarter and not better than those that you are working with. And finally, this is important, be for things, not just against things. Opposing what seems evil is important, but promoting what is good is far more powerful. Each of these lessons springs at its heart from a deep commitment to the equal worth of every human being, those whom we agree with and those we don't, those who we like and those we don't, those who we think are on our side and those we believe not to be. In truth, the world does not cleave so simply into our allies and our enemies. Of course, all of this advice is meaningful far beyond the realms of politics and the struggle for justice. These are keys to being effective in the world in whatever you choose to do. And of course, they are keys to being effective here at Williams, in class, on teams, in clubs, with each other in our community. So use this last year at this college to practice these habits and to hone these skills. You'll be learning some of the most important lessons that our college has to offer, and you'll be carrying into the world habits and commitments that we all so deeply need. So have a wonderful year.